History is written by the victors. We know the story of 2001. We know that Vince McMahon bought his competition. We know WCW died. We know that the Attitude Era was transitioning into something new. But while the history books focus on the invasion and the corporate wars, they often leave out the silence. Imagine being at the absolute peak of your career. You are the voice of a generation. You are one half of the greatest commentary duo to ever put on a headset. And then mere weeks before the biggest event in wrestling history, WrestleMania, X7U, just vanish. Jerry the King Lawler didn't get fired for drugs. He didn't get fired for bad performance. He walked out. He looked Vince McMahon in the eye and chose love over legacy. He bet his entire career on a principle, and for 9 agonizing months, the King was in exile. But here is the question that haunts this story. Was it worth it? Because the ending of this story isn't a fairy tale. It's a tragedy that most fans have forgotten. Today, we are uncovering the true story of the 9-month exile. To understand the magnitude of Lawler leaving, you have to understand the magic of the booth. In the late 90s, Monday Night Raw was a chaotic war zone. You had Stone Cold drinking beer, Undertaker sacrificing people, and DX invading countries. But the glue holding it all together was the sound. Jim Ross was the storyteller. He was the sports announcer trying to keep order. Jerry Lawler. He was the chaos. He was the iody of the teenage audience. He screamed. He shrieked. He rooted for the bad guys. It wasn't just commentary. It was a performance. They were the Lennon and McCartney of wrestling broadcasting. But outside the ring, the King had found his queen. Stacy Carter, known to the world as the Cot. She wasn't a trained wrestler, but she was electric. She knew how to grab attention. Lawler was smitten. By 2001, they were married. In Lawler's old-school mentality, a husband and wife were a unit. You mess with one, you mess with the other. But the WWF is a corporate machine, and machines don't care about romance. In early 2001, the backstage creative team grew tired of Stacy Carter. Reports from that time suggest they felt she was difficult to manage or that her attitude wasn't worth her output. The decision was made. Stacy Carter was to be released. When the news reached Lawler, he didn't blink. He didn't ask for a compromise. He went straight to Vince McMahon. The ultimatum was simple. If she goes, I go. Now, pause for a second. Imagine saying that to Vince McMahon. The man who just crushed Ted Turner. The man who fights God in match stipulations. Vince didn't flinch. He accepted the resignation. And just like that, the King was gone. The timing could not have been worse. We are talking about February 2001. We are on the road to WrestleMania X7, widely considered the greatest pay-per-view of all time. And suddenly, the voice is different. Enter Paul Heyman. Now, don't get me wrong, Paul Heyman is a genius, but his style is aggressive. It's abrasive. When Lawler and Ross bickered, it felt like two friends poking fun at a bar. When Heyman and Ross bickered, it felt like a legitimate argument. The fun was sucked out of the broadcast. This coincided with the invasion angle. WCW and ECW were invading the WWF. The storylines were getting dark and serious. Without Lawler there to lighten the mood with a joke or a squeal, the product felt heavy. Fans started to feel the absence. You don't realize how much you miss the air until you can't breathe. Meanwhile, where was the King? He wasn't sitting on a beach. He was hustling. Lawler and Stacy began taking bookings on the independent circuit. High school gyms, fairgrounds, international tours in Australia, far away from the bright lights of the Astrodome. He was proving a point. He was standing by his wife. He was the hero of his own love story. But as the months dragged on, the reality of the situation set in. The independent circuit is hard. The travel is brutal. And when you are used to flying first class with the WWF, a rental car in the middle of nowhere feels like a prison. There is a cruel irony in this story. Jerry Lawler sacrificed the biggest job in the world to save his marriage. But the stress of that sacrifice is exactly what destroyed it. By the fall of 2001, the relationship between Lawler and Carter collapsed. Stacy Carter moved on. Lawler was left standing in the rubble. He had walked away from the WWE for her. Now she was gone. He was alone. No job, no wife. Just a legend in exile. But here is a secret that very few people discuss. During this exile, Lawler was dangerously close to signing with a competitor, the XWF. It was a startup promotion filled with legends like Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, and Tony Sable. They wanted Lawler. They courted him. Imagine a world where Jerry Lawler became the voice of the XWF, never returning to the WWE. It almost happened. But Jim Ross, the loyal friend, kept the bridge open. He knew the product was suffering. He knew the invasion angle was ending at Survivor Series, and the company needed a reset. When word got out that Lawler was single again, the path was cleared. There was no public apology tour. There was no humiliation ritual. Vince McMahon, ever the businessman, knew that bringing Lawler back was simply best for business. November 19, 2001. The night after the alliance was defeated, Vince McMahon stood in the ring and fired Paul Heyman. The commentary chair was empty. And then the music hit. That pop, that reaction, wasn't for a character. It was relief. The fans knew that order had been restored. When Lawler put that headset back on and looked at Jim Ross, the Attitude Era officially ended, and the Ruthless Aggression Era began. Lawler's 9-month exile is a strange footnote in history. It reminds us that even the biggest legends are human. They make decisions based on emotion, not logic. Lawler lost the girl. He lost the WrestleMania payday, but he regained his throne. And in the end, maybe that's where the king always belonged, not in a castle, but at ringside. What do you think? Did Lawler make the right choice by walking out, or was it a mistake to leave during the prime of his career? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into wrestling history, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, like the video, and ring the notification bell. We are preserving the history of the ring, one story at a time. I'll see you in the next one.